Right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the California Disaster Strategies Disaster Strategies Coalition Systems Change meeting. This meeting happens every fourth Thursday from 10:30 to noon Pacific time, and we are so glad that you're here. For those of you that join us on the second Thursdays, this is a partner call to that call wherein we focus on our systems change priorities for the month. And I am joined here by a good number of my colleagues and my partner, June Kales. I just want to mention that you can access the closed captioning feature by going to the bottom of your screen and clicking the live transcript button and turning on the closed captioning option there from that menu. I will now introduce June Kales from the Disaster Strategies team.
Hi there, I'm June. I'm in LA, and all those kind of things, graying hair, COVID hair, graying hair, gray vest, black t-shirt, messy office, and the next topic call is scheduled for February 10th at 10:30, and that will be the part one of a two-part focus on establishing working partnerships with your local Office of Emergency Management. So we have 4 different panelists from different independent living centers around the state, and it should be a good dialogue.
And then I would, thank you. And then I'd like to introduce Anthony Lee, who is our CFILC program coordinator for these calls. Anthony, would you like to introduce yourself? And if you would, please share the information that you shared in the chat verbally as well.
Yes, hi everyone. Nice to meet you and good morning. My name is Anthony, and what I posted in the chat is please post questions in the Q&A. The chat box located in the meeting controls at the bottom of your screen. The chat is reserved for networking and interacting with one another. And please use the raise hand function located in the meeting controls if this is the most accessible option. And then just to reiterate what Russell was saying, at the bottom of the meeting controls, there should be a CC icon. If you press that, you can press live transcripts and you can get your subtitles going. Then I'll pass it back to you, Russell. Yeah.
Thanks. And again, my name is Russell Rawlings. I am the statewide community organizer here at California Foundation for Independent Living Centers and the coordinator of the Disability Organizing Network, and helping facilitate today's meeting. I will now pass around quickly for introductions. Got a lot of new faces here. Really excited to see so many of you. Let's go to Kelly.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh,
I'm sorry, there's 2 Kellys.
I am so sorry. I did not catch that. I am so sorry. I'm reading across the screen. So for me, it's Kelly.
Oh, perfect. That's me. My name's Kelly Kiflahan. I'm the ADRC Transition Advocate at the Independent Living Resource Center in Ventura, California.
Great. Thank you. And Helia.
Good morning, everyone. Helia Dago here. Pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the Systems Change Advocate for the Dale McIntosh Center located in Orange County, California.
Great. And Colleen.
Hi, I'm Colleen Black. I am a independent living advocate in Placerville, and we serve El Dorado, Alpine, and Placer counties.
And Casey.
Hi, Casey, they, them, theirs pronouns. I work at the Center for Independent Living in Berkeley. I do travel training. I am the Community Connections Program Coordinator.
And now Kelly Hansen.
Good morning, everyone. I've been with CID in San Mateo for almost 7 years as a WIPA, Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Counselor, and was just recently, recent, promoted to project coordinator for the DDAR program. So I'm happy to be here.
Great, welcome.
Thank you.
Daniel.
Good morning, everyone. Daniel Holmesy with the Department of Emergency Management, City and County of San Francisco, Director of the Neighborhood Empowerment Network. And my role is to work with communities to increase their capacity to protect everyone during times of stress, ensure there's equity and inclusion pre and post event when it comes to disaster resilience planning and response and recovery.
Welcome, Daniel. Thank you. All right. I will introduce a member of our team, Cameron Moore. Cameron.
Good morning, everyone. This is Cameron. I am the Communications and Marketing Manager at the CFILC. I am doing our YouTube live stream right now, so I'm a little behind the scenes. Pronouns he, him, his, and I'm in Sacramento. Is there anything else you wanted me to add to that, Russell?
That's great. No, I just want to make everyone aware since we are doing a lot of extra coordination lately and bringing all of our capacity to this call. Cameron is in charge of making sure that we are live and up and going on YouTube and that our meetings are well documented and recorded. So really glad to have Cameron's support. Next, I have Rosa Lopez. Rosa, are you with us? Okay, we'll circle back. Sandra.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra Furpo. This is my first time on this meeting. I am an emergency services specialist with San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department. We cover and serve the cities of Belmont, Foster City, and San Mateo. And pronouns are she, hers, and her. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here.
Great, really glad that you joined us. All right, next I have Carrie Madden.
Good morning, everyone. Carrie Madden, Systems Change Advocate from CalLife in downtown Los Angeles. My pronouns are she and hers, and no access needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And as Carrie demonstrated, feel free to share any access needs that you may have. Jan Lamucci.
Sorry, I'm just coming in. I haven't been able to hear anything that's been going on. You want me to introduce myself?
We're at introductions, so you haven't really missed much.
All right. Jan Lamucci with Independent Living Center, Kern County.
Great. Thank you, Jan. Good to see you. Hi, Norman.
Hi, everyone. My name is Norman. I'm the Emergency Preparedness Coordinator here at RICV, Resources for Independent Central Valley. We serve the Fresno, Merced, Madera, I think Kings and Tulare County, basically the Central Valley. And my pronouns are he and him. Glad to see you all.
Good to see you as well. Next, a member of our team, Megan. And Megan may be away. Let's jump over to Ron Haylog.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ron Haylog. I'm the Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for Independent Living Resources of Solano and Contra Costa County. Thanks.
Good to see you, Ron.
Good to see you too, Russell.
Lewis.
Hello, everyone. This is Lewis Krause. I'm the co-director of the Pacific ADA Center. We provide information and training and technical assistance on the Americans with Disabilities Act. You can call us free if you want any question answered about that, about the ADA, at 1-800-949-4232. We also have a whole series of webinars on emergency management that we do every month on Thursdays, like immediately after this session. So if you want to do that in future months, feel free to go to adapresentations.org and look at the schedule there. Thanks.
Thank you, Louis.
Hey,
Also-
Louis, this is Jan. Did you change your time slot for those calls?
For our webinars, no, that's always been 11:30 on the second Thursday of the month. Second Thursday of the month. That's right.
Great thing. Second Thursday. Okay, so there's still some overlap with our second Thursday calls, but only a half hour.
Maybe we can figure that out going forward. Thanks. Louis, you shared some contact information that I think might be helpful for folks. If you don't mind maybe typing that up and putting it in the chat as well, it might be easy for folks to access it that way. If that works for you. Thanks. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Louis. I see that Christina Mills is here with us. I'm not sure. Did you want to do an intro, Christina?
Hey everyone, this is Christina Mills. I'm the Executive Director of the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers. We implement the Disability Disaster Access and Resources Program, and that means funding and organizing the disability access and resource centers throughout the state. Happy to be here. I use the pronouns she and her. I'm wearing a black shirt today with little gold hearts on it, and I have brown hair with lots of gray in it, and CFILC's different programs on the screen behind me. Welcome.
Cindy Soto.
Hello, this is Cindy Soto from Cal Life ILC in downtown LA. You, she, her, hers. I have no access needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Ian Spark.
Hi, and good morning, everyone. My name is Ian Spark. I accept the pronouns they, them, theirs. I also work at the Independent Living Center of Kern County alongside Jan Lamucci. I am the special projects provider, so my job title, my job description varies. I work right now with the CARES Act and with the Public Safety Power Shutoff, which is umbrellaed with the DDAR program, the Disability Disaster Access and Resources Program. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ian. Asia Sprewell. We're doing introductions. If you'd like to introduce yourself and the center that you are with. I know you're newer to our network.
Hi, everyone. My name is April. I am the new systems change advocate here at Rawlings. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a brown skinned woman with blonde hair wearing a yellow shirt. And I'm just happy to be here with everyone. I wanted to wet my feet a little bit.
Great. Thank you for sharing and welcome. Dan Okenfuss.
Hi, everyone. Dan Okenfuss. I am the Public Policy Manager for CFILC. Happy to be here. My access needs are being met, and I am Caucasian male, wearing a navy shirt, and yeah, just listening in here. I'm also monitoring state capitol sessions as well, so I'm multitasking. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Always helping us keep in touch on what's going on inside the building. Thanks. All right. Thank you. And again, I am really glad to see all of you here with us today. I am going to do a couple of things really quickly. First of all, I am going to share a link to the Google Drive for the California Disaster Strategies Coalition public folder. This is a place that it's new, so it's not yet fully fleshed out, but it is a developing space where we will place material from these calls. One of the things that we are committing to do is posting notes and a transcript of the chat in the Google Drive. So I will put out a notice on the listserv, the California Disaster Coalition listserv. And please, if that's something that you're not familiar with and you'd like to join the listserv, please get in touch with me. My email address is russell, RUSSELL, @cfilc.org. I'm going to share this link, and then after that, I'm going to both type in my email address as well so that you can contact me. And I would encourage those of you that are new, well, everyone, to share your own contact info in the chat if that is accessible to you. If it's not accessible to you and you would like to share your information, please just feel free to raise a hand or whatever is, or use a method to get our attention, either by verbally speaking up or raising a hand. And we can acknowledge you and make sure that we get your information included as well. All right, first of all, I'm going to share the link to the Google Drive, and then I will put in my personal contact info, and I would encourage everyone to share theirs as well. And June, do you want to, while I'm doing that, would you like to go over anything for the either the topic call or frame us for today?
The schedule for the up and coming topic calls?
Yeah, I think that would be great. What is the next one coming up? Kind of overview.
Sure. The next two calls are in two parts, and they are peeling the layers of the issues regarding establishing relationships and partnerships with your local emergency management agency. So we're going to hear from each call two different centers who have worked on this and what it takes, what's the history, what's worked, what hasn't worked, how it gets embedded and sustained. So the format is a panel presentation, probably up to 20-25 minutes, and then a good chunk of time, 60 minutes for a give and take, peeling the layer conversation with each other. So that will take place in February and March. And after that, I believe we have a call with Vance Taylor, and that from the State Office of Access and Functional Needs at Cal OES, Office of Emergency Services. And that'll be a call where we look at the history of that office, understanding the staff, their roles, their vision, their goals for the next 2 years, 5 years, and how we as a community can help and partner with them. And after that, in May, we have a call with the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies. That's a national disability-led organization that focuses on emergency inclusive disability issues. And we'll be speaking with the two co-executive directors, Herman Perotti and Shaylin Sujalis. I always butcher her last name. So that's the lineup so far. And I think past that, we'll probably be doing a call with the World Institute on Disability around their emergency projects. And that's the lineup today. Back to you, Russell.
Great, thank you, Jim. So as you can see, there's a great list of topic calls. Those are every second Thursday of the month from 10:30 to noon Pacific time. So the second Thursday of the month is the topic call, and then the fourth Thursday of the month is our systems change call that you're here at. So it's really great to be here with you all. I want to accomplish two things today. I think it's a good idea that we continue our conversation about collecting a set of missing information that has been identified by so many, kind of the information that you wish that you had or that you use in your everyday trainings and collectively making sure that we are sharing consistent information and communicating with each other on our best practices. And we do have the Google Drive. So I am going to work with all of you to coordinate getting this information together and then hopefully formatting it in a way that we can all use and share. So I'd love to hear maybe a few ideas from folks. Are there training materials that you're currently using or any gaps in the information that you feel exist? I also see that we have a few new folks that have joined us. So if you've not had a chance to introduce yourself, feel free to jump in and share. Dawn has shared with the group. Hi, I'm Disaster Dawn. Sorry, I have no audio at this time. And sorry, just to reiterate, is there what materials are you using to communicate with the community right now, the AFN community?
I think this is Christina. I think Daniel's looking for his mute button, but he has some really cool training materials. Oh, there he is.
Great. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, everyone. I just was joining today to uncharacteristically listen as opposed to talk, because I'm known for my enthusiasm for the subject, but be happy to share a little bit about what we're doing in San Francisco that I think might offer help. So in our work here in San Francisco, we always believe in empowering everyone individually in their effort to advance their resilience during times of stress, and we never forget that. But in our experience, and in my own personal experience, because tragically I've lost family members who had access and functional needs during disasters, and unfortunately the reason why they perished was because they were isolated socially and were not connected to the community around them. And tragically, even last Friday night, I found my godbrother unresponsive, and he's in the hospital right now with sepsis. And again, he was living alone. And the reality is that a lot of data that we're looking at right now coming out of Professor Daniel Aldrich's work and other places is that social cohesion and connectivity with the immediate folks around you plays a big part in people's ability to negotiate times of stress, especially when we're looking at things like public safety power outages, which affect folks that have electronic dependent devices. And we saw that firsthand in Cloverdale, California, for example, when they lost all power and natural gas. And so we've been prototyping a new system called NeighborFest, which actually is a way to use block parties to pre-event, embed at the block level, something we're calling a block response team. And we started prototyping this about 6 years ago here in the city, because we just saw that we were having a hard time reaching deeper into neighborhoods and getting folks on board to this mission. Certainly, we've seen fantastic programs like CERT and NERT and, like even neighborhood watches. But what happens is we find is that people that want to participate in this work and look out for themselves, their household and their neighbors, often the programs that we put on the table kind of are very logistically complicated. Like you have to convene meetings and you got to go watch a video and you have to talk about disasters. And I think everyone is always concerned about disasters, but they aren't just motivated especially when they're busy and have kids, to like come to someone's house and talk about something that may not be as empowering or as exciting as they might want to be. So what we realize is if our goal capacity is to have folks at the block level that are able to work together and connect with each other and perhaps help each other, we realized one way to do that was just get them to host block parties. And so we started prototyping a system that offers them a tool book, or we call a playbook, to help them learn how to bring their neighbors together and actually use a version of the incident command system to organize and produce their event, but at the same time do it in the wrapper of something that we all know happens all over this country almost every weekend. And then those are block parties. And I do want to honor the research, that's been done around this in other communities, such as LSU finding that in Hurricane Katrina, the dance troops were the best organized civic groups to help advance the response and recovery in neighborhoods, because they were up and running all the time and knew how to organize volunteers to get stuff done. So I want to honor that work. Right now, we were blessed to actually have had about 4 or 5 years of this program running in the city. I was honored to work with the University of San Francisco's Master of Public Health Administration program in May of 2020 to actually conduct an assessment where we actually reached back to all of the hosts of the block parties and just asked them, like, what happened during the pandemic and did participating in our program work? And the data was inspiring. And I say that with, obviously being very proud of it. But, we had one data point where the NeighborFest host said 100% of the hosts reported that participating in the NeighborFest program not only helped them identify the most vulnerable neighbors on their block because they activated the street and they were able to come out and connect, but it also helped them identify neighbors that they could work with to help those folks shelter in place during the pandemic. Since anyone who knows this work realizes that, if you're sheltering in place during a disaster, you may need help 24 hours a day. And one person isn't going to be enough to help some folks, especially if they're trying to care for their own household. And so there's a tons more data that came through it, but I felt that was the most significant because I've never seen 100% rating on any assessment. And so what we've done now is we're recommitting to the program. We just got a fantastic budget from the city. And the new layer that we want to add is we're building a guidance document, a new playbook that once, if there is a disaster, the host committee can now open up what we call the block response team playbook to take all the relationships and skills and resources that they inventoried during the block party. And one of the key resources that we use during the block party is when people register at the block party, they have a form they complete. Some of it's all voluntary, and we're very clear about that. But we say, what is your name, your address, your location, how many people in your households? And then we say, are there any members of your household that are vulnerable that might need additional assistance in disaster? And they can indicate that. And then we also say, are there any skills that you might have to contribute to responding to a disaster, such as first aid or psychological assistance? And then we also say, do you have any equipment? And so they collect those sheets and they're entered in. People can earn a door prize if they do complete the form, if they are successful in winning a door prize. And so the playbook helps them take all those relationships and skills and intelligence, and then they actually, in a position where people are sheltering in place, we're going to provide them guidance on how to conduct consistent wellness checks, and then some guidance on how to solve the most simplest problem. So we're really excited about this program. We actually introduced it at the Listos conference in San Diego to a room full of CERTs, and they were all fired up. And we've had tons of CERTs that have actually followed up and are introducing this program in their communities so that they can work with the folks that are trying to help people shelter in place. And but we're also really honored to be, working with Vance Taylor, Cal OES, Cal Volunteers, and other folks on it as well. It's all available at neighborfest.org, neighborfest.org. I could put it in the chat. And I'm here because I was kind of reaching out to Christina, and we're going to get together soon. I think we're working up to it, but we really want to provide people with very clear guidance on how to work with folks in the access and functional needs community while they shelter in place, and understanding that there are certain protocols and behaviors that you should adopt in order not to amplify their anxiety and stress, but how to work with them in a way that is meaningful. And I don't have that expertise, and I've been looking for it, and I'm really excited about maybe tapping in this community. We also have an access and functional needs team at the Earthquake Country Alliance that we're working with as well. But the bottom line is the lessons of Paradise, Cloverdale, Fountain Grove aren't lost on me. And I'm tired of reading about folks that were not able to get out of harm's way because they were by themselves. And I think everyone else is. And I think by offering them something positive to do to prepare for that moment so that they can work together is the only thing I care about right now. It's just, we've got to stop. We've got to disrupt this paradigm, and we've got to get everybody at the table. So apologize for the long-winded introduction, but just wanted to adequately explain it so that people can see the opportunity here, and hopefully we can circle back and partner and work on this, because we need all the guidance we can get from this community.
Thank you, Daniel. No, not at all. Don't worry about being long-winded. I think you helped us. As a community organizer, sometimes there is an opportunity to open up discussion, and there can be a bit of an awkward pause while everyone kind of collects their ideas. But two things came out of what I heard that you were sharing, and that's that first of all, you inspired a whole bunch of chat that I'm going to get to in a moment. But second, what I would like to maybe think about with you is bringing together some of the expertise that we have here in this room, and I know we have it, of the centers, but thinking strategically about what does it look like for those that may be attached to an independent living center or somewhere outside of city or county government to attach to make those meaningful and deep connections with city and county government. So I think it's good that we're seeing a mix, and that we are seeing folks like yourself, Daniel, coming into these spaces. So thank you. I also want to share Disaster Dawn. Dawn, is your microphone working now, or are you still off audio?
Can you hear me?
We can absolutely hear you. Would you
Okay,
like
I switched to a different computer.
Yeah, I know. I saw you did that. And I also saw that you shared in chat about your potty posters. So a few things. One, I'd love for you to maybe take a second to introduce yourself and share. But two, I would like to ask that you send us a copy of the content of your potty poster so that we can get it in the Google Drive.
The potty posters were actually, I borrowed from the collaborative agencies responding to disaster site, and I don't think they're up and running anymore. But so I just have my hard copies, but potty posters, you can make your own under any subject, and you just stick them in the bathroom where you have a captive audience. But also a lot of people will, maybe they don't speak the same language, or they don't have a literacy skill level. And so I like having pictures of showing things what to do. And then, so potty posters are great. I don't know. I'm a big fan of potty posters, and you can make them about any topic under the sun. So
I still think it might be.
Call them potty posters is just because you put them up in the bathroom stall. I mean, it's better than scrawling, what cute boy you like in 5th grade or something. There's better things you can do in the bathroom, but so.
Great. Well, it's unfortunate to hear that the organization that assembled those may be defunct, but maybe if you've got again, maybe a photo or something that we could transcribe so that we could show some examples maybe of that material. And I see that Ron's raised
Let me go to my other room and search through my disaster binders, and I'll probably grab some.
Great. You don't have to step away from the meeting if you would like to do it after, but feel free. Ron?
Yeah, I just wanted, the potty posters are great. I actually work really close with one of the CARD old employees, Lars Eric Holm, and they do still, he's with Eden INR 211, so they still have access to it. And I know that he still has the potty posters. And so if you guys want any of them, he can send it directly out to you. And what I could probably do is you can just go to Eden 211, the right in Hayward, and look up Lars Eric Holm, and he'll get them out to you.
Awesome.
Would you maybe, Ron, if you've got a second for accessibility, would you mind typing some of that note in the chat?
I sure will. I'll put that in there. Thanks.
Thank you. And then I also see that, Dawn, you've also shared mapping your neighborhood is a good tool that we use in CERT.
Yeah, I think that was being alluded to by Daniel. I missed part of his conversation, but he mentioned something that sounded like mapping your neighborhood. When we do neighborhood preparedness events, and we like to teach people to map the neighborhood, and it gives them an opportunity to get to know who their neighbors are, what are the hazards, who are the people who might need help, and who are the people with skills and tools and resources, and anyone can do it.
Thank you, Don. Also, I see Daniel has shared with us the website that he referred to, neighborfest.org. And I think that getting out in there in the community is one of the most powerful things that we can do. I also liked the idea of partnering with culture, the arts and culture groups in the cities and counties, because they do have a wide reach already. People want to party. I've been to community events that were geared around emergency preparedness in the past. It's a great opportunity for those of you that may be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by a lot of things. It's a great opportunity to do something fun in the community. And there's always willing partners at cities and counties to collaborate and put something together.
Yeah, if I could just add, the Map Your Neighborhood program is great. And we just see our program as an extension of that program, and just helping people reach deeper into their community under different modalities. I'll say that me personally, we hosted a block party on our street in October of this year because we were just craving to get back together. And we had a very important example where this woman came out of her house, who we'd all known her and her husband for years and seen them at past block parties. And she let us know, she said, I just want to let you know my husband passed away during the pandemic. And we were like, oh my goodness, it's terrible. Really sorry to hear that. And she said, will you promise me that you'll check on me if there's an earthquake? And we were like, of course. But it was just because we had activated the street, and all she had to do was walk outside and just, see everybody. And she felt comfortable presenting that she wanted that assistance. And so just want to put out there that the modality of the block party just increases the chance for folks to feel comfortable and safe sharing something as important as that. So I would love to work with anyone who's doing the Map Your Block and show how they can connect and support each other.
Thanks, Daniel. I see June's hand.
Hey, yeah, it's so exciting to hear this, Daniel. I love the Map Your Neighborhood model. And I think it originated in Washington State, Kings County. They have websites, but can you talk a little more about how your program is the same and different? And have you thought about how it could be connected to the app Nextdoor?
Today is a very interesting day because my life just seems to be in circles. And so I had an 8 a.m. meeting with Nextdoor. And my buddy Dan Parham, who is the head of government programs, and I have been friends for years working on this work. And we had this exact same conversation. And because, Nextdoor was an early champion for the NeighborFest program. And we were able to do some early work with them. And it seems such a logical fit. The folks that are next door probably think block parties are a no-brainer. And since block parties also point towards public safety as well, there tends to be some traction with next door folks because that's often a priority for them as well. So we're working on a partnership with them and the Earthquake Country Alliance and all these other amazing organizations to really, at least in California, spike awareness of this program, but create interoperability with local emergency managers. And so when you enroll in the NeighborFest program, for example, and you become a host, we actually connect you with local first responder organizations, so you can have a fire truck come out to your block party, so you can have the police department come out, and also coordinate with your local NERT and CERT team to have them table at your event. And so it just seems like a real organic extension of what everyone's doing, but just creates the nexus at the block level, as opposed, to be honest with you, when we do resource fairs, like for a whole neighborhood, it may not seem like a big deal to drive 1.5 miles to a resource fair and park and walk over and walk around the event. But what we have found is, and I've documented this over and over again, is when we do the block party, we actually have people that have mobility issues whose in-home care actually bring them out. And everyone's like shocked. They're like, they had no idea that someone was in that home. They thought the in-home care person lived there. And it's just the first time they've been daylighted. And they actually come over to the table and want to talk about readiness. They're really into it, but it's just unrealistic for them to go 1.5 miles to a resource fair and participate. So by moving it to that footprint, we've seen success in that model. So Maximilian, who I think is the engineer of the Map Your Neighborhood program up in Washington, he and I presented on a panel at the Listos conference in San Diego with the CERT teams. And it was literally a month before the pandemic. And he actually was like, we should look how we can fuse this together. So I'm happy to work with anybody on this. No one strategy or organization is going to move the needle as far as we needed to on this mission. I'm thrilled to work with folks on this call, but any other partners you have out there, it'd be great to come together and crowdsource this, because I think people are looking for answers right now. And I think the answers are on this Zoom, and I'd love to play a role in helping take your brilliance and programatize it so that everybody who cares about everybody on their block can do something about it without having to take the time that we all have all done to better understand this mission.
Hey, thank you, June here. And can you put your contact info in chat? Daniel?
He's done that, actually.
Oh, great. Okay. And I'm just looking for some simple tools, because sometimes getting a block party together is a heavy lift for people right now during Omicron times, the pesky variant times. But I think there are other tools like, dropping note in Nextdoor, or even running into a neighbor in a rolling or walking around the plot saying, hey, Daniel, just thinking about emergencies, and let's, just tools, things to say to get it going without maybe the heavy lift of the neighborhood block party. For example, in New York City, even map the floor of your apartment building can resonate, or anywhere in California. Like, let's just map our building. How do we do that? That might be a easier, simpler start than the block, and then move up from there.
I see that Colleen is also inspired by our conversation as well. So definitely, one of the things that popped into my head, I'll quickly share that Nextdoor is one aspect, I think of a pre-organized community, but another is the National Night Out effort that occurs in August. And that's kind of a built-in, also has a safety, and security component to it. So it's another kind of national built-in movement that is easy to latch onto in your local community, because there are block parties usually almost nationwide, and in every community. And that includes, a lot of the organizing that happens on Nextdoor and with safety and security agencies.
Totally agree. Love to work with them. The playbook can be used for anything. National Night Out, Valentine's Day. Colleen, ping me. I'd love to talk to you about that and get you a prototype we're developing, and you can use the tools right now. They're not published, But I'd love, if you want to help me test some of these new tools we're building, I'll share them with you. So contact me and I'd be happy to share you the new version that before it's released officially. I do want to honor June's point, and I would like to offer that for folks on this call. I don't think anyone who lives in cities right now who cares about this community isn't inspired by how tall our apartment buildings are getting, but also terrified of the fact that you're moving a lot of vulnerable residents that are living at home with chronic conditions 20, 30, 40 stories up in buildings right now. And it's a big concern that people in Vancouver and San Francisco are dealing with, but I'm even dealing with in towns like Cloverdale, California, where they have 3-story buildings and no strike chair to get people out of those buildings. And so I mentioned the block response team playbook we're building. We actually think we could actually tweak the whole model for apartment buildings. So the Neighbor Fest would happen in the lobby or in the courtyard, and then we'd have a floor response team where we'd find one person on each floor that would repurpose the skills that we want to offer people at the block to do the same thing on the floor of their building, but coordinate with a main center downstairs, what we call a block response team center, so that when the first responders walk in, they don't have to do like door checks on 30 stories, but actually the information would be all ready for them on who on what floor needs help right away. And so again, would love to work with this community and start to have this conversation, because I think everyone is kind of scratching their head about our ladders only go up, 12 stories, like what happens next? And I just feel like this conversation could extend to that opportunity as well.
Hey, Junior, you must have a great fire department. I thought they only went up 6 floors, the fire ladders. No, seriously, 6 floors.
No, you're right. I'm horrible. 90% of statistics are all made up. So I apologize about me. I'm busted. But you're at 6. Sadly, the number just went way down, right? And I met with all the folks that live on Russian Hill in San Francisco. If you know Russian Hill with all the tall buildings, and a lot of folks said they moved in with their husband or their wife or their partner 40 years ago when they were young and they had children, and now they're aging in place and they're terrified of being stuck up there during an earthquake because the elevators won't work. It was a really interesting conversation. These are very wealthy people that are just as concerned about this as anybody else, and they realize money won't matter. It's about being prepared that matters. And so I'd love to go back in partnership with you and talk to those folks. But again, I need your advice on so many aspects of working with these populations so that they feel safe, and it isn't just a bunch of people grabbing them and dragging them out of a building, because that just could make things worse.
This is great. I think maybe there's definitely some energy I'm sensing around ideas for future topic calls as well. So I know June is making notes. I can see it. We are also making sure that we're capturing all of these ideas. I also see Casey has shared in chat. Thank you. I hadn't known what a strike chair is. Are there preferred brands? I'm on the 4th floor and I'm a wheelchair user. So perhaps we can have a conversation about strike chairs. I'd love to get that kind of conversation started. I love it whenever we hear like a new concept or idea that people may not be as familiar with. So I think that's really good. I do want to be aware of our time and also give space for folks to share for those that might have attended the topic call. I did want to make space and see if there were any takeaways from that conversation that we can work on, some systems to change or anything around power planning resilience. So happy to open that conversation up as well, or we can continue this one.
Can I just add, Russell Jr., just to broaden out the concept, structures can also be known as evacuation devices and can also be known as stair chairs. And a lot of the ambulances, at least in LA, or the fire trucks have one of them on one of their vehicles, but there is not just one to be recommended because it depends on who will use them and how the stairwells are configured. And so there's some detail attached to them, but definitely something that I hope we can explore further. And several people have approached me to do a topic call and what Daniel just came up with, which is, I live in an elevator building. What happens when there's no power and I need to get out and I cannot do steps? What are my options? And once I get out, how am I going to get around if I, rely on a heavy duty powered mobility device or heavy duty scooter or whatever? So we need to look at that as a call as well. Back to you, Russ. Sorry.
Thanks. No, don't be sorry at all. I'm kind of seeing this organically coming along. And I think that one of the things I'm hearing that from a systems change approach, right? Thinking systemically and what can we change through some of these actions. I think that Daniel and others have provided a real clear roadmap on how to get connected in community and to develop leaders in your community, block identification, block parties, kind of leaders in the, somebody is going to want to be really fired up about it and be a leader in your local area, maybe your building, as June recommended. And then from there, we can start building plans like, what does it look like to develop an evacuation plan for your building organically with people that have access and functional needs and need things like strike chairs and all of these other resources. I know that others on this call have experienced the issue of living in a building or being in a building where elevators have lost power. And in my mind, that is a disaster. It is an immediate disaster. So having some plans around how do we mobilize, because a lot of times there's a couple of layers. You got to identify who needs, access immediately. And also, more importantly, how do we get this fixed? And that's can be a real challenge and sometimes seem insurmountable. But if you've got a whole building worth of people mobilized, ready to push, then I can guarantee a lot can happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, we talk about the Trinity, which is connection, capacity, and resources. And if you don't invest in all three, the other two don't work. And so having a strike chair, knowing how to use it, but knowing who you need to partner to use it and having them trust you so they'll answer the door in the first place and trust you with their health and well-being, we find is almost as important as everything else. So I appreciate that point because, if we just fill buildings full of strike chairs, it's not enough. And so I appreciate you pointing that out.
Love it. And I'd love to capture in our notes the Trinity there. I really love that. I also see that Lewis has shared a webinar archive of stair travel devices done on, it's an ADA series, and there's a link to it. So if you want to get more educated in strike chairs or, stairway evacuation plans, feel free to watch that presentation. That's a great one, and we'll make sure that we capture that and put it in our resource notes as well. And June, you've shared a link, but it looks like the link you've shared is probably, unfortunately, not going to completely work. It's not quite a valid URL, it looks like. So maybe we can connect if there's some way to troubleshoot it.
I will fix that in a moment. Thanks.
Great, no problem. And Daniel, I see you gave it another go. Should that be an HTTP colon in front of what you shared there?
Yeah, maybe. I was just trying to assist.
Yeah, no worries. While we work on that, is there anyone else who would like to add something to the conversation? Any personal experiences? Are you motivated to take action in some way? What kind of next steps can we all collectively take in our work together to move us toward having these kind of built-in networks of mobilized communities? Thanks, Jen. Anyone have thoughts or ideas? I think everyone secretly wishes that they had a Daniel that they were already connected to.
I'm here now. Let's get to work.
Right. Ask anything.
Daniel, you mentioned the website. Is that in chat too?
The website for the initiative is neighborfest.org. I put it in the chat. I could put it again, neighborfest.org. And there's actually a video there that I shot. I did a prep talk for FEMA that Bob Fenton invited me to do about the program. And I talk about my personal experiences regarding this important mission. So if you want to take a minute and watch it, it kind of lays out very simply what the program is and how it works. So neighborfest.org, plus all the data from the assessment that we did with USF's Master Public Health is up there as well. So you can see the data from the assessments we did from the hosts and their experience during the pandemic, in case you have any questions about that. And then if anyone wants to email me, obviously I can't talk enough about it. So if you want to connect and chat one-on-one, if you feel more comfortable doing that, happy to contribute or participate. So give me an email. Or if you have any ideas on how to make it better or things I should be thinking about, I'm a sponge. I'm just jumped in this business a few years ago because I felt compelled to, but I think I always do better when I talk to people who really know what they're doing. So please help me succeed.
And thank you, Louis, for sharing your expertise with us too. And so one of the things I think I would be excited to see is that folks are taking some of these ideas maybe and bringing them in your local area, connecting with neighborhood organizations, especially neighborhood associations can be a good place to go to. I know that my local neighborhood association has had disaster and resiliency conversations before. I imagine that many of you live in an area where there is a neighborhood association. There are just so many groups. Additionally, there's your public library, your community centers. So many places to get these conversations started.
So this, Louis, I'd like to plant the seed in your bucket for maybe updating that last evacuation device webinar. I mean, I, for one, would like to hear more about adoption by community groups like the apartment buildings that we spoke about today, and just where are we with this? It's a great idea, but the absorption and adoption has been very limited, maybe more in Title II in government entities than in the residential communities. And it's such a huge need that I'd love to have us revisit that whole topic in an expanded kind of way, Louis.
So Jan Lewis has actually hopped off, unfortunately. But I think we can bring that to him. And I know that that sounds like a great opportunity for maybe a training topic call to expand that conversation too.
If I could just add to that, I feel the lessons we learned in Santa Rosa during the Tubbs fire were profound in regards to what property management companies think their role is in a disaster and supporting residents. Unfortunately, there were some really sad experiences with some residents being basically abandoned by their property managers, thinking it was the fire department or the Red Cross's job to come and get them. And hindsight's 2020, but I think we've got to have a bigger conversation with property management companies, especially ones that are nonprofit and house very vulnerable residents, because we need them to get to understand that they've got to prepare their site managers to do more than just open up the door and take out the trash every day. And a lot of them told us, like, that's not part of our job, but we'd like to learn, but they have no place to go and learn. And so, as we said before, I think we have to empower them with this mission because it could be overwhelming as well. So that could be something we can add to that conversation too.
I'd like to add to that, Daniel. I think from a public policy perspective, we need to push for stronger statutory regulations. You know, this was a major issue during the New York City lawsuit regarding their lack of planning for people with disabilities and emergencies. And New York City is a great model of a vertical city where everybody lives. Nobody lives on the ground floor, or very few. And so, but frankly, as somebody who was intimately involved in that for years, it's disappointing about what's come of that planning in terms of particularly residential units. So I think one is HUD. You know, all public housing should take responsibility for this. Look what happened in Brooklyn or the Bronx just in the last few weeks. That horrendous fire. That's a great example of problems we have. I mean, this is talk about a pandemic in our community. This is a pandemic problem.
It absolutely is. Thank you, June. I think you've identified a systems change goal too. And that's that one, that we do establish some information, but honestly, the onus is on these property managers and others to be actively a part of the process. And it's really good to hear that, Daniel, that you've made some good inroads. I think if we have some of the material together, but also June, I want to honor, what you said. Sometimes you need a little bit of policy teeth, or a lot of policy teeth, to help make sure that actually happens. Because I agree, our housing providers, for especially our low income individuals who are struggling the most with resources, need concrete plans. There is no excuse for an organized governmental agency to leave people in a lurch. So let's, Jim, do you think maybe we could work to see what is going on in New York currently, and maybe even learn and maybe replicate and map something going forward for a public policy strategy?
Yeah, I would like some help with this from the listeners to, help dig at that. They may not respond to me as well as others.
I understand. Well, I don't know. You're pretty well known, so, but maybe we can collectively go around really quick. Is there anyone who feels that they might have a connection with planning agencies that happen to deal with the scope of of New York City in particular are connected to places that might be in the room with those folks.
I think I do. So I'd be happy to reach out to folks in New York City that I've met with and worked with before that are charged with this mission. So if you're interested, and these are folks that actually are in charge of like the housing authority for the city of New York, which we both know would be a big deal. I think there's a lot of, I mean, I think we get a lot. We could also just come up with our own goals and objectives. I think California, I mean, I'm a personal friend of Gavin Newsom. I know if I called Gavin and pointed out some gaps that this community field matters, I'm sure he would be like, yeah, let's talk about this. Because, you know, this is, I think as any governor in America right now knows, you realize, you know, the more we do before, the easier it is after to support folks. I think the things we're talking about here are kind of no-brainers.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you know, the devil is always in the details as far as like, how does the state encourage local governments to do these things? And that's the challenge we have before us. And I think, you know, kind of maybe both approaches, you know, talking to the housing authority in New York could inspire us to be like, this is how this mobilized in the city. And then also talking about what is the, you know, maybe are they aware of any statewide, New York statewide initiatives or kind of backing up of that strategy. I also see that Sandra has, or first of all, Dawn has shared, I have some stories too, example, finding no way out during a fire. And I think, you know, consumer stories are really powerful, especially whenever it comes time to putting that public policy piece into place, right? Because as simple and as no-brainer as all of this may sound to us, anytime there's a budget dollar sign, the state is going to be like, well, what justifies this? And we need those stories and that kind of impact to show. And then Sandra's also shared, we've been working to encourage all of our communities, including those with an AFN, to pick up a go bag, even if you need assistance evacuating. If you can have a bag in your lap or attached to you, you'll be empowered by having specific needs to specifics with you. Medication, such as medication, battery, and power packs for your devices, food bars, change of clothes, hygiene items, copies of important documents such as list of prescriptions, etc. And those are definitely things that I know that the topic call has talked about, prepping a go bag. Those are in our archives, and perhaps we can, again, as part of our organizing effort here, organize those on the drive so that they're easy to find and kind of map out which topic call covered what and how to view the archive quickly.
Hi, can I just share? I love this idea. Why I love it so much is I feel there's power in numbers. Like this call is all this knowledge. When you come together, there's so many solutions. And I think when doing this work, I get a lot of, when I reach out to people for solutions or I'm talking to people, they say, well, we've already tried that, or we've always done it this way. And I say, well, it's not working. Well, we can't afford it, or the money's not there. So I feel like instead of constantly reaching out, though it's very important, I like seeing people empowered in their neighborhoods, because then you have the power. So you can say, this is what we need. And when you have a whole block contact the city or the fire department, and you have all those people's numbers, that's where the power is. Because for years we've been doing it the same way, but it's not working. I have people snowed in, I had people affected by the fires, and I'm calling, a 92-year-old calls me and says, I have a can of soup, and Meals on Wheels says, well, we'll deliver them a frozen meal. I mean, it's the same old answers. So I see it in the neighborhoods here. When people get together and they say, oh, there's a 4x4 group that'll go out and bring that person out of the snow. That's where the power can be. So I'd like to see more of that. It makes me feel better as a person. I mean, I'm on my block and I say hi to everyone, but we've never gotten together. So I was just thinking, okay. And I know there's people that have different needs. So if they had all of our phone numbers and people that say, I'm willing to help, they'll have different options. So I really see a lot of power in this idea. It's like a creative, out of the box, though maybe we've thought of it, but just for someone to bring it up and then spread it like wildfire could be amazing. So thank you so much, Daniel.
Hey, Colleen, this is June. I just want to connect the dots with what you said to the most granular level, which is, you know, we independent living centers and other places say, health plans, that they work with people on their emergency plan, but sometimes we don't go detailed enough in terms of identifying who those helpers really are. So, you know, part of connecting the dots here between the block is your neighbors could be on your helper list to check on you and with you and help you in an emergency, as well as, you know, moving up to the block, you know, organizing the block and that kind of thing. Like the helper list that the individual puts together is really key, because a lot of the vanilla preparedness information just says, you know, have a kit, make a plan, blah, blah, blah. But they don't go to the details of disability and why a helper list is so critical. And how do you do it? How do you do it? Who do you ask? And who do you trust? And how do you determine that?
Thanks, June. I also want to highlight something that Colleen, you know, and June, you're both kind of highlighting right now, is Dawn has shared in chat. I call these people Minutemen, people who could be there to help in a minute. But I also think that, you know, there's two parts. There's double value in doing this type of work. There is the one of creating these resilient networks of what we call, you know, in some spaces in disability, mutual aid, right? So you've got these kind of mutual aid leaders and networks built in your neighborhood, people that you can trust in case of a time of disaster. And then you're also, and this is the other thing, is you also have a community that is mobilized to tell your city and counties that, hey, we need funding for this. We need accountability for this. You know, we need our, for example, maybe you have a 10-story building where it's, you know, operated by some HUD funding. You know, you can easily go to the county and say, what is your plan? And if it's not fully fleshed out, say this is completely unacceptable. How do we make these things, you know, come together in the right way? So I think there's been a lot of good inspirational idea here, and I'm looking forward to next time hearing from those of you that have had the opportunity to connect with your kind of mapping out what this might look like for your local area. I think, Colleen, one of the things you kind of sparked in me is asking yourself, you know, internally, you know, maybe you work at an independent living center and most of your time is spent, you know, kind of in that context when you're at work. What does it look like though in your community? You know, independent living centers are a great resource, but they're only as great as their reach in the community. And so these are great ways, I think this conversation in particular is a good way for you to connect with people in your larger, you know, larger social communities and your immediate neighborhood physically around you.
If I could just add, I think a lot of people over the course of the pandemic realized that there just aren't enough firefighters and ambulances to go around. And so our work, we engage the civic leaders of neighborhoods that are the champions for the neighborhood, for everything, land use, planning, public safety. These are folks generally that are retired, that some of them call themselves junior seniors, but they actually have partners that they're caring for that actually are vulnerable. And what the new mantra that's coming out of our neighborhoods is telling the city, we know we're going to be on the front line, and we know it's going to be on us to help these folks, and we want to step up, but you need to help us. And they were able to secure hundreds of thousands of dollars in the budget this year because they were like, these are the programs we want to run. We're not asking you to solve this problem, but help us solve this problem. And it's been transformative because now it's not on the person who may be in their home living with access and functional needs to solve this very complex problem. Now the civic networks around them are coming to the table saying, we're here to advocate for them as well. And I think that's the secret, is going out and finding those folks. And our system actually helps those stewards see the role they can play here. And it's really exciting to see them on the call telling the city, like, this is going to be on us, so help us succeed. Because in the end, as we know, the ADA does require you to do the work, but maybe we need to redefine what the work is. And maybe the work is to empower our leaders to be able to do this. So it's an exciting paradigm, and I'd be happy to bring some of my neighborhood leaders on the call that are getting a lot of attention for their work during the disaster. And you can hear firsthand from them how 10 years ago, they didn't even think they'd ever be involved in this work. And now it's all they think about. So happy to do that. And I think you'll find them maybe more inspiring than I am. I'm just a little over caffeinated sometimes.
That's what we need sometimes. I also would say, Daniel, I totally acknowledge what you're saying, the shortage of so many resources in so many ways. Sometimes it's easier for a community to mobilize money too. Perhaps it's easier for an agency. I would, the one caveat is, I would never encourage, a massive amount of time dedication from willing volunteers, because unfortunately, sometimes you burn those people out. But if there's a way maybe to look at and ask your community, leaders, we understand that you're short-staffed. How about you allocate us collectively as a group some funds that we can then use to, either, redistribute to get somebody competent in, or, just collectively organize. I think a lot of times cities and counties worry, oh, there's just not the budget for that. But it's surprising how much money they could mobilize to like a community project that could be led by neighborhood leaders. So I think there's tons of opportunity there. It's just a matter of inspiring people. And it sounds like there's, oodles of enthusiasm about doing the work. So,
Russell, June, I'm two things. One, I'm struggling with Dawn's term Minutemen. It's like firemen. So I need for this group to post in chat, what's a more neutral thing? Instead of Minuteman, now we don't say firemen, we say firefighters. We don't say mailman, we say mail carriers. So how can we update Minutemen? And the other piece is, a funny story. I love the quote, and I use it often, that 70% of first responders in a major emergency are your neighbors, your friends, and your family. And so people said, well, June, who said that? And I said, I don't know, but I'll search for it online and see who said it. And I searched and searched and searched. And the only person who it ever got attributed to was me. So
it's your quote now, June. So it's you've said it, you've researched it. Nobody has copyright on it. It belongs to you.
But I think it's really true. We do small events really well, but it's the big ones that we really, have to struggle with.
Great. And I also see that Daniel has offered, we call them block champions. And I think that's a good gender neutral term. I wonder though, if anybody here has an idea for maybe like what a concept for this might look like, especially understanding too that that I think we don't want to lose track of the AFN nature of these kinds of conversations, because there are many groups that are interested in disaster preparedness and resiliency, but we want to be sure that the AFN conversation is the one that's like particularly being raised, I think. But I do like Block Champion. I think that's a good maybe pivot for right now.
We start off with block captains, but there was a little anxiety about maybe a little bit of a paramilitary thing, and also like, who made you the captain, right? You know, when we were kids, remember, like, who chose you? You were in charge of the team. So champions, we were like, I'm a champion for my community, right? Like, I want this to be the greatest, safest, healthiest place to live. I'm gonna champion it. And so we kind of coined that phrase. But I would just offer, when I was growing up, it's just called being neighbors. And that's just another thing, is like, why do we need to rebrand? It's like, just be a good neighbor. Like, when did being a neighbor stop? When I could borrow your ladder, or I can get a cup of sugar, but if you need my help because your house is on fire, that's not my job. I mean, I grew up in old school San Francisco, and we were like 24/7, and I think that's the culture I think we need to bring back to America, is just committing to our neighbors and letting them know it's unconditional love and support.
I see Dawn has offered Helping Heroes, which might also be very suitable. I think Daniel's absolutely right. We need to be cautious of our language, and also understanding too that some members of certain, many communities actually may have a long way to go to building trust and relationship with cities, governments, and law enforcement, and providers of emergency services, just because they've seen a disinvestment or an under amount of response. So I think, again, that's another task for us, right? Is to kind of work on the culture from both sides, and continue the conversation. So maybe, unless, in lieu of maybe focusing in on a title too, let's kind of be more open-minded about it and say, I like the idea of being a neighbor, but also understanding that even if you're someone, and this is probably for a bigger community than just those of us here on this call, but everyone that you talk to, that's part of the disability community, you can say, you may not think you have something to offer to your neighborhood as a leader, but you are an expert in disability. Every person with disability is an expert in disability. Your experiences make you that. So I would say that there's a real opportunity to inspire people to be leaders and to step into these kinds of conversations and roles. And June has offered just-in-time helpers. I like all of these. I don't know that we have to focus in on like an official one.
There's a group in a really great program called Community Connectors, which I'd love to bring to this conversation. Community Connectors is a group that's set up to break down the isolation for residents in neighborhoods, and so they come into communities and offer programming to bring folks together, and it's just remarkable what they do. But their slogan is, I believe, turning strangers into friends and turning friends into neighbors, right? That's like their path, and I think that just captures it. And neighboring is a brand new form of volunteering people are talking about now, and sometimes it's good just to help remind people it's that you don't have to reframe who you are and what you're doing. You just be what we all want to be, which is just good neighbors. And so, but it's a fun conversation. I'm like the fact that we're already coming with branding, just skipping the concept part. Like, okay, what are we going to name, right? So it's exciting. So anyhow, I'm oversharing today. I apologize, but I'm just so excited about the opportunity here. So apologize for that.
No, it's good to be. That's never a bad thing to share. So I do want to make space for anyone who might want to share anything additional. I see Dawn has put in the chat, FAST is already used for a couple of other things, functional assessment service team. That's what FAST, the FAST acronym stands for. Checking people for a stroke, for example, but I suppose acronyms can be used for more than one thing. And that's also probably something we want to add to the Google Drive, is a bit of our alphabet soup. I think that's a helpful resource for folks that may be new to the conversation, is what do all these kind of soup of letters, what do they all mean? So I hope we're able to compile that. I'll do some research on my end and pull something together. All right, so what are some good, I mean, I would, since I've got a few minutes with some of you, I would encourage you all to kind of take some of the material here and start thinking about what kind of connections do I have to folks in my community, both in your like immediate neighborhood and also like organizationally, what other organizations is your organization attached to, like the, do you have a standing relationship with a FAST team? What does it look like to say, hey, at the FAST team, say, hey, we want to start organizing these block, level organizing strategies. I'd love to hear maybe anybody here inspired to do that and maybe have an initial plan of some conversations that they want to have.
So I'm just coming off of just finishing my paperwork still, actually, from the recent event where PG&E, we had the big storm hit, right around Christmas, and a lot of people in the foothills and up this direction have been without power for a couple of weeks, and a couple of people froze to death over in the Sierras before anyone could help them. And so my program expanded quite a bit just during that event. And I made a lot of, when you respond to events with other, people from ambulance and fire and everything else, and Red Cross, and you're solidifying those relationships, I think I would like to put on some kind of an event, maybe in the Willow Creek area, because it could combine Western Trinity and Eastern Humboldt counties, and start pulling in some of the people who were affected, who maybe didn't get that outreach yet, that we were doing during the event, and put on something like this in that rural area. It might be a little tricky because everybody's like so kind of far out there, but I think I'd like to partner with some folks out that way, and maybe with the tribal members and stuff, and put something on out there. So I might be reaching out to you, Daniel, and folks, and get some advice on this, because I've done smaller events myself, and I've done trainings in different counties that were like for service providers and geared toward things like that. But and I've done, neighborhood outreach and door-to-door things to businesses for shakeout and different things. But I think I would really like this to be one of my projects in the coming year, because they've been impacted by fires, by smoke from fires, by weather-related events. They're really prone to power outages and all that. So I think this would be, now that a lot of them already know and recognize me, and then they can help spread the word through their contacts and their neighbors too. So I'll probably be in touch at some point.
Great, Dawn.
Thank you for being on this.
I'd love to hear how that's working, and also maybe help you from like an organizer perspective, what it looks like to be holding meetings where you're kind of bringing people into the conversation as leaders themselves and helping it spread kind of virally through those communities.
Yep.
And
John, happy to connect.
I probably shouldn't say viral, but it's a good kind of viral.
Don, feel free to email me. I think the work we're doing in Cloverdale, California, and the work we've done in Bishop, California regarding PSPS would be a really great fit for you to take a look at, because it's a very complicated when you have people distributed over large rural areas, but it's how we're looking at how when they present for help in the center of areas. So we can talk about the work we've been doing with like the Citrus Fairgrounds, for example, in Cloverdale, so that when they have a surge like they saw during the Kincaid fire of 700 people looking for help, how to scale and do that without the Red Cross being there. So maybe we can give you some examples and connect you with folks.
That'd be great. I think it was kind of funny when I came out with our van all full of batteries and supplies and stuff, and I came up to and I stopped at the Red Cross shelter, and they came out, and the people from the Red Cross were going, "Thank God you're here," and that's not what I expected. Usually it's the people, "Oh, thank God Red Cross has come." So it was kind of interesting, but yeah, I've got lots of ideas, and I definitely want to bounce them off with you. Thank you.
All right. Well, I know that we're at our time for today, and I really appreciate all of you being here with us today. Thank you for joining us for the Systems Change Call meeting. And I just want to remind you that there is the upcoming topic call again on the second Thursday of February. And also too, please be on the lookout for a new registration link for these meetings that will be coming out in the week ahead. That will be, again, distributed through the California Disaster Access Strategies listserv. So if you are not connected to that, please get in touch with me, Russell at CFILC.org, and ask to be added. I want to thank all of our expertise here in the room. You're all experts, and want to wish you a good and happy Thursday. Thanks all.